Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Colin Tierney. I work in the marketing group here at Sageworks, and I wanted to quickly go through a couple slides to introduce the webinar today, and then I'm going to hand it over to our speakers to actually go through the content. But before we get started, I have just a couple pieces of housekeeping to make sure that we cover. So if we go to the next slide here. So as you can see, there is a question box that's available in the software. So if you have any questions at any point in time, feel free to ask them there. If it's a technical issue, we'll address it as quickly as possible. And also, if you have questions on the content, please feel free to ask those as well. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation if time allows. And now just a little bit about Sageworks for those who are unfamiliar on today. This is a bounty market, valuation market, as well as banks. So we've been around for a few years now and are very excited about what we're doing and providing customer service that has actually won us some awards recently. So we like to talk about that and share some of the things that we're doing to help those firms. So if you have questions on any of our products and services, please let us know. We're of course always happy to see if we can help your firm. I want to quickly let one of the presenters introduce himself. You're going to hear from Scott Vautrin here. He's going to be the presenter from Sageworks today. We'll also have a guest presenter. But Scott, if you have a minute there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Vautrin, and I work in our business valuation and accounting markets. I'm able to work with hundreds of different professionals and gain a lot of insight into your industry and challenges that you face in exit planning and the valuation process. So that's where a lot of this content from today has come. And now I'm excited to introduce our guest panelist or speaker, Jared Johnson with BEI.
Hey, thanks, Scott. And Colin, I'm excited to, again, this is Jared Johnson. I'm excited to present to the group today. I work at BEI as the Director of Business Development and Corporate Relationships. My role on a day-to-day basis is to speak with professional advisors to the business owner marketplace who are interested in engaging exit planning as a way to bring in new business to their firms, as a way to expand service offerings they already offer, and most importantly, as a way to closely help business owners exit their business when they want, with the money they need, transitioning to the successor of their choice. I've been with BEI for about 2 years, and in that time have worked with over 1,500 advisors to help them implement exit planning into their practices. I'm excited to share what BEI has to offer as far as from an exit planning standpoint, and look forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Now we'll go on to the presentation. Our agenda today, we're going to be talking about why businesses aren't selling, different ways that you as a professional can differentiate your firm, leverage data and research, removing the emotion from the sale process for the professional or the business owner that you're working with. And then once again, we'll be going back over to Jared with BEI for some exit planning opportunities. Before we get too far into this, I would like to present a couple of poll questions just to better understand our attendees. How many buy-sell engagements are you currently performing per year? And that should pop up on your screen for you. Okay. Looks like most of our attendees are doing anywhere from 0 to 4. 26% of our attendees are doing about 5 to 9 engagements per year. Next, I'd like to ask, how many valuations are you performing each year? That can include both formal and informal valuations. Okay, interesting. Looks like about 50% are doing between 0 and 4, 26% are doing 5 to 9, and 11% are doing 10 to 19. That is interesting. Basically, you're doing more valuations than actual buy-sell agreements. So that's good information. So now we'll get into some of the content. Why businesses aren't selling. In Q3 of 2015, we saw that 6% of businesses for sale actually did sell, and that's averaged over 12 months. We would expect 24% of businesses to sell. 75% of those businesses that aren't selling are basically due to lack of planning, and that's mostly on the business owner side. So as the professional, when you're being hired, it's really your job to help set that plan into action. Some of the reasons the owner isn't able to sell their business, the owner is the actual business. The owner did not take time to perform an exit or succession planning. The valuation of the business is too high, many cases up to 100%. And I'm sure all of you can agree that every business owner you're working with always inflates the value of their company. So it's up to you to bring them back down to reality. And owners oftentimes receive poor or inconsistent advice from trusted advisors, or business advisors, brokers, and valuators might not be an industry expert. Later we'll get more into this, but that's where good data is going to really help you get above that. With so much competition in the industry, it's imperative that you take any steps possible to set your firm apart from your peers. This includes an online presence, multiple platforms such as websites, LinkedIn, Yelp, Angie's List. Your visibility to potential clients will add a level of credibility. It'll also make sure your previous happy customers are engaged in your platform and giving top-notch reviews for your work. Website mobile optimization, original graphics, and things like that that are easy to use are very important. You're going to want to list what percentage of the businesses you represent actually sell. You're going to customize your reports for your clients, make sure that your process is repeatable so that you're efficient, but you also want to let your clients know that you're working for them and really making all of the work that you do for them customized specifically for that engagement. You're going to want to explain the owner through a thorough report why each method of your valuation was considered and either used or not used. You're going to want to add adequate dialogue to help prove your case. I recommend when you're doing a business valuation, you actually go out to the business, you take pictures of all of the assets. So when you're writing up your report, you're going to really have that backup that you need to get that value that you're trying to get from your potential sale. So you're going to want to leverage data and research. You're going to be using public and private company data. It'll be beneficial in both attaining new clients and selling your current clients' businesses to the most qualified buyer. You're going to know your industry, the trends, transactional data, economic forces, and marketability issues. That's really going to guide your conversations with both your client and the potential buyers. You're going to want to prove to your new clients that you're the most qualified professional to represent them, and using that data is the best way to add credibility to your assessment. Each individual business's value is going to be up to interpretation of the evaluator, so using the data is your best way of proving your assumptions and make the assumptions into facts. There's many private and public company data sources available. Each business that you're representing, it might be necessary to use multiple data sources to create the clearest picture of value and the future performance of that business. It's recommended that you have access to as many data sources as possible as you're going through and setting that engagement up. Another important part of the sell process or the exit plan is to remove any sense of emotion from your client. Beginning with the first meeting, it's your responsibility to set reasonable expectations for your client and make sure that you can execute those expectations. In every industry, it sometimes becomes easy to promise your potential client the world just to gain their business. This will not only make your job difficult if the promises are unattainable, It can also lead to a negative experience for your clients if the things are not achieved. Or worst case scenario, you don't get the sale of the business. Through case studies, references, benchmarking data, you can help increase the owner's level of comfort. You might want to bring on former business owners who sold their company successfully to use as a consultant. And of course, those in-person meetings to show your client that you're there working with them and working towards that value by, changing accounts receivable days, getting that in line, or your inventory days, things like that. Those in-person meetings are what's going to really help you get to that next level with your client. Now I'd like to propose another poll question. Which professional designation best describes your expertise? Okay, it looks like just over 50% of you are business consultants, about 25% are CPAs, and then 16% with the business valuation credentials, 9% others. Business brokers, valuation professionals, and accountants. A large percentage of the clients I work with do little or no marketing for their services. I would not recommend you do this. However, you may find that your reputation and personal contacts are enough to generate enough clients to meet your financial and company goals. You want to reach out to industry partners through networking events, professional associations, maybe LinkedIn groups, or simply knocking on doors. If you're a CPA, you might want to reach out to divorce attorneys and business brokers and just really connect with the different industry players. That's going to help bring new business in for you. And also you're able to outsource maybe engagements to your professional contacts if necessary. From a recent Sageworks valuation case study, Terry Lammers, he is a business broker. He started incorporating business valuations into his daily offerings to his clients. As he saw he was outsourcing a lot of that to a CPA, decided to bring that in-house, and in turn, he's been able to generate a lot more revenue, and he's able to be more of an important part of the deal process. Advice to share with all of your business owners. Sometimes we don't get to exit on our own terms, and things can happen unexpectedly. People become disabled, people die. Even if your business is in growth mode and you have no thoughts of retirement, you still need to deal with the contingencies of a forced exit. Peace of mind and security for you and your family and employees. And that was by Steve Parrish. So I do want to spend a moment just speaking about ProfitSense and our valuation platform. We've got many resources throughout these platforms to help during the exit planning process. These resources are going to help you work through challenges that might arise during the process of a sale. Challenges some of our current partners have shared with us: acquiring and retaining clients, generating a scalable firm growth, communicating complex financials to clients, attracting new talent, adopting new technology, and integrating web-based software with business processes. For scaling your practice, you want to acquire and retain clients, generate a scalable firm growth, and communicate complex financials to your clients. Through our narrative reports, we're going to illustrate your firm's value while explaining complex financials in a manner that your clients can understand. You want to be able to attract new talent, adopt new technology, and integrate web-based software with your business processes. Through the Sageworks technology platforms, they are globally accessible, so you can be working remotely if you're stuck in a snowstorm out in Denver right now, and still be able to be productive. Simple integration of your financials, simply upload them with our integrator tools right into the platform. You're going to reduce the risk of errors and save a lot of time. We do have the Sageworks industry data, which is the largest private company database, updated on a daily basis of private company financials. That's good for benchmarking, comparables, and just doing consulting engagements with your clients to show them where they compare to the industry. And of course, you can customize all of the reports. You're going to have full editing ability for all the reports. Your company logo, it won't say Sageworks anywhere on there. Some of the benefits are to acquire and develop clients. You're going to differentiate your firm by selling additional services and software as a service that's going to help scale your firm. Benefits of ProfitSense, which is our accounting platform. You can quickly diagnose client financials to identify new services, compare firms to the industry averages with peer-to-peer benchmarking, and communicate complex financials in easy-to-understand graphs and narrative reports. And our business valuation platform, it is web-based as well. You can do complete valuations from any computer, anywhere you have your internet access, automate financial analysis. You're going to save time with our report builder and our document manager, and it's really going to scale your valuation practice. And finally, before I hand this over to Jared, I'd like to ask one more poll question. Would you be interested in a live demo to discuss how Sageworks Valuation can help your firm? Simply click your answer, and then we'll move on in a moment. Okay, now I'm going to hand it back over to Jared Johnson for some insights from BEI.
Hey, thanks, Scott. And group, I'm pleased to be able to speak with you again today. I think a lot of the key points that Scott mentioned in his presentation will be echoed here in the BEI portion of this as well. For those of you who don't know BEI, we are an international organization that works primarily with CPAs, financial planners, business and estate planning attorneys, as well as financial advisors, M&A brokers, and insurance planners. And our goal is to help our business owners or the business owner clients of our clients exit their business, again, with the money they need, when they want, and transitioning to the succession or to the successor of their choice. We have approximately 275 firms that are members with us. With the varying numbers of individuals within those firms, we've got a network of over 500 exit planners who work with BEI. So I'm going to share some insights on really the opportunity and why exit planning is so important. As you heard from Scott, many businesses that are supposed to sell don't, and there's some primary reasons behind that. Colin, if I have you jump to the next slide for me. What we have seen, so BEI did a survey in 2014 of approximately 10,000 business owners within the exit planning market space. Now, from an exit planning standpoint, what we target, or what our advisors target, are any businesses with gross revenues north of $2 million per year and short of $150 million. Once you get outside of those ranges, exit planning doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Obviously, Main Street, mom and pop, there's some planning that needs to happen, but from an exit planning standpoint, your options become limited. And of course, north of $150 million, same kind of conversation. But what we did was surveyed over 10,000 business owners, and what we found was interesting. Because when we asked them, who are you talking to about your exit, you'd think the CPA, their attorney, insurance advisor, somebody would be kind of this, would rise to the top here. But what we found is that 32% or 31% of business owners are talking to their children or spouse, and then top of the heap, kind of 14% being insurance and financial advisors. the lowest percentage of respondents said that they were talking to their CPA. I will point this out because as you aggregate the data, because we allowed folks to answer more than one advisor type, only about 15% of folks in a whole answered that they were talking to a CPA attorney or an insurance or financial advisor, meaning that just over 80% of folks who own businesses aren't talking to somebody who can help them exit their business. We kind of speak to Scott's earlier point about businesses not selling because of lack of planning. However, when we ask the question, do you want to leave between being at the 3-year point and 21% being 10 plus years. So if they want to leave and they know they want to leave, but they're not talking to anybody about it, why is that? What's happening? So Colin, I'll have you jump to the next slide for me as well. What we find in the same survey is that 41% of owners want to transfer to key employees, co-owner, or an ESOP. 24% think the business should go to their children, and only about 29 to 30% want to go to third parties. So if they want to transfer to a key employee, a co-owner, or their child, the biggest problem that they face is those people, those chosen successors, don't have the money to buy. If they did, they wouldn't be working for mom or dad. They wouldn't be, the key employees would have their own business. They wouldn't be working for the co-owner today. So that's what we're finding is a large roadblock for most business owners, is that their chosen successor is somebody who doesn't have the money to purchase their business. So this kind of puts them in this stalemate of, well, I'm not really talking to anybody because the person I want to, I know doesn't have the money. So how do we move this forward? All of these challenges can be addressed through exit planning. So Colin, I have you jump to the next slide again. The benefits of exit planning for your business owner truly are to maximize the business value, helping them to place themselves as in an industry leadership standpoint or reputation. It helps them to minimize risk during that transition. We all have hopefully not been a part of these, but in our business we see it all the time, where there's a solid succession plan in place, but all of a sudden there's a divorce, or heaven forbid the business owner pass away before that transition has been executed. Well, with the proper planning and documentation in place, that transition can move forward without the complications that are seen if a business owner passes before that transition happens and the documentation is not in place. It also helps the business owner stay in control at whatever level they choose. We talk to business owners every day who say, I'm going to die at my desk. I want to be here until the very end, and that's okay. But what happens to your business? What happens to your family when that day comes? We see folks who say, you know what? I only want to work 9. I'm not willing to give over complete control to my son, my daughter, or the business is doing. Or am I just not seeing that trend?
But we.
Okay, perfect. Well, as we wait for that to transition, one of the and pay well for exit planning services. So as an example, our average fee structure is anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 just for the plan creation itself. That doesn't include the revenues that advisors are receiving for core service. The business owner's advisor is able to take that business owner from being the center of this planning universe where the owner feels like the attorney's coming at them, the CPA's coming at them, the insurance advisor is pulling them in, and saying, I'm going to be the quarterback of your. As Scott mentioned, it's important that we temper those expectations, and then we find out what the business owner wants, so that we can make sure that we're building a plan, one, that achieves their objectives, but most importantly, that we help that owner understand what their objectives could be and should be. So I think we should all see the team approach currently. So it's important that we understand from an exit planning standpoint, it's not a CPA's role to develop and create the entire exit plan. What we're asking those advisors who decide to become an exit planner is to really be the quarterback of the team. And the reason is not one advisor has all of the answers, nor are they licensed to do all of the work. John Brown, our founder, is an estate planning attorney. He's licensed to do law. He's not licensed to sell insurance. He's not licensed to create valuations and different key parts of the exit plan that are necessary. But what he can do and what our advisors can do is use a process that helps those advisors within the team stay on the same page and move towards a common objective. Team approach is certainly necessary as different skills are required. It's going to minimize time and cost. And really, the only way that an exit plan can be executed properly is if this team is properly facilitated and led. So we'll go to the next page, Colin. And we'll talk about the key ingredients of a successful exit plan. First, the exit plan should be written and based on the owner's objectives. Okay? Some owners, as we've seen, want to exit to a third party. They want to put themselves out to a private equity group or financial buyer or strategic buyer. Excuse me. Others want to keep it within the family. And any exit route is possible with the right planning. We need to make sure that there's an experienced team of advisors to design and implement the plan. The business has to have cash flow and a quantified business value, which is where most of the folks on this call come into play, making sure that the business financials are in order. We've got to have a strong management team in place. And finally, for an exit plan to be successful, we've got to make sure that there's time. What we say is anywhere less than 18 months, you're going to be in a bit of a bind. Optimally, we want to make sure that the business owner is planning 3 to 5 years in advance of their exit. That way, if they need to build an exit plan, or excuse me, if they need to build a management team, they can do that. If we need to grow through acquisition or grow through just organic growth, that we have some time to do that. As Scott pointed out earlier, so many of the business owners who we talk to and who come into the exit planning marketplace think their business is worth 4 to 5 times what it really is worth. And now we can get them to where they need to be, but we've got to have the time to do that. So if we'll jump to the next slide there, Colin. BEI looks at 4 cornerstones when it comes to integrating exit planning into your firm. So whether you want to use exit planning as a differentiator, or you want to be an exit planner as a way to grow your practice or simply support your business owners, there are 4 key things we've got to do. The first is you have to market yourself as an exit planning expert. We'll talk about the keys and how we look at that in just a second. You've got to have the techniques and resources to compel a commitment. Exit planning is scary, and let's face it, as these business owners are talking about exiting the thing that they created and really has supported their family and for many of them their communities, transitioning from that business is difficult, at least to think about. So what we've got to do is have some tools and resources to help them once we have engaged the exit planning conversation to drive a commitment to move forward. What we like to do is utilize a software program to build and revise an exit plan. There's no need to recreate the wheel each and every time. And then also you want to make sure that you've got some project management tools that will help keep the team on the same page. And we'll go to the next slide. So from a marketing your exit planning practice standpoint, there was a marketing firm recently who did a study of high growth firms, and they defined high growth firms as firms in the professional services world that had 20% or higher organic growth. Their growth rates were 3 to 4 times that of their peers. Their profitability was 2 to 4 times that of their peers, and their marketing expense was less than about 80% of their peers. So higher growth rates and spending less money on marketing. What they found is that those firms did 6 things really well when it came to marketing. They had something good to say. I'll keep going back to Scott's point about saying something that differentiates yourself from the marketplace. There are thousands of business consultants. There are thousands, if not, hundreds of thousands of CPAs, many different business brokers out there. What makes you different? We want to make sure that we say it well. So a lot of times in my sales career, we went to training and said, you've got to be flashy. You've got to say something that catches their eye or catches their attention. This marketing firm disagrees with that slightly in that we want to simplify it. Boil it down to the simplest points. What do you do? Who do you do it for? And why would somebody choose you versus somebody else? Say it often. So many times in our industry, in our profession, we see folks wanting to be on the golf course all day long or be out there having lunches with clients. Well, what ends up happening is we end up having the same conversation with that client over 4 or 5 lunches. Well, that gets to be pretty expensive. So we advocate for folks to use social media, jump on, have a newsletter system that can constantly and consistently drive your message without you having to sit down and have a $200 lunch every week with a client. Not that those are fun, or not that those aren't fun, guys. I enjoy a lunch with the best of them. But if I can have those lunches and then have a direct communication with our clients or our prospects on a weekly basis without having to say the same thing over and over and over again, it saves us time and money. We want to say it to the right people. So define your marketplace. If you're going to get into exit planning, we don't want to chase the mom and pop Main Street businesses. If we're going to get into exit planning, our marketplace is not the businesses over $150 million. From a bread and butter standpoint, from an exit planning situation, our marketplace is between about $5 million and $30 million in gross annual revenue. Those are the businesses that we want to work with. We see on both ends of the spectrum, we see advisors do very well in each area. However, most of the plans that get done within our platform are between $5 and $30 million. We want to make sure that we're saying it consistently. Again, don't confuse the marketplace. If you're an exit planner, you're an exit planner. That doesn't mean that you're not going to operate through your core services. But this is a way to drive business into your firm. And finally, say it cost effectively with time and money. We'll jump to the next slide, Colin. Okay, so as we look at those resources to compel an engagement and drive a business owner forward with exit planning, again, keep in mind that these business owners have built this business from the ground up, and for many of them, the folks who work for them are family, whether it's literally or figuratively. They have built a reputation within an industry. They have supported a community for many, many years. So we have to help the business owner find a pain. Secondly, we will outline the process for them. We've got to boil it down. There are so many different pieces and parts to exit planning that it can be very scary and overwhelming for a business owner. So we want to boil that process down for them. Finally, we're going to identify the need and then get the signature. So when we look at finding the pain and outlining the process, Colin, have you jump to the next slide. From a find the need standpoint, and I apologize, I pulled a slide out of here. We want to be asking questions about, a lot of times advisors will take the approach of, hey, Dave, you're getting old. One of these days this business is gonna transfer. We're gonna have to do something about it. It's kind of a harsh way to go about it. So what we look at is, hey, Dave, what does this business look like when you're only here from 9 to noon? What do the next 5 to 10 years of your life look like as you're spending more time with your family and grandchildren? As they start to think about what they need and want, we're going to then bring in the outline, the process. It really is going to help the business owner understand what this process and timeline looks like. Again, there are probably thousands of different exit paths and strategies, and each of the different opportunities within those branch off into their own way. It can get very cumbersome for the business owner to think about. So we want to boil it down for them and define it simply. At BEI, we use a tool called the Pathfinder. Our advisors use this to help simplify this process. It presents a clear path to the solution and really simplifies that complex service offering. So for our advisors, they sit down with this sheet of paper. It's kind of an outline format that says, hey, we're going to have a meeting today. I'm going to do an assessment. We're going to understand what your wants and needs are. Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to collect a whole bunch of data. Once I collect that data, I'm going to review a strategy with you. Once you and I are in agreement as to what that strategy is going to look like and our goals and objectives are in the right place, then I'm going to meet with the rest of your advisors. Again, so that I can make sure that what we've developed and the tools and processes that we've thought about aren't way off base. Plus, I'm going to have to use this attorney, that CPA, the business coach that's out there, financial advisor, to drive home some of the recommendations that we make. So I want to make sure that they're a part of that team. So as we bring them in, and once all the advisors are on the same page, we're going to present a final plan to you. And from there, we're then going to, I will be your exit planning quarterback. I will march you through the implementation process. Excuse me. Next slide. So as we've talked about outlining this process, now we've got to help define that need. Because it's very simple for us to say, listen, Dave, you're 75. You've been in this business 40 plus years. At some point, your children are going to want to take over. At some point, you're not going to work as much or as often as you need. The challenge becomes, until Dave realizes that for himself, we're never going to get a plan in place. So one of the things that we will say, in order to define the need, have a set of questionnaires that drive the business owner to kind of some self-realization or some self-discovery. At BEI, we use an exit planning workbook. Whether you choose to use BEI or not, or kind of go through our process, the key is to have a repeatable questionnaire set of discovery tools that drives the business owner to a place that looks like this. You all should see on your screen now a graphic that is a chart. And what this chart is a visual representation for the business owner of what they care about. So for some business owners, they care about minimizing taxes. For others, they care about getting the maximum price, and they don't care what tax implications there are. Some want to make sure that there's family transition involved. And in those cases, what you do is you use that graphic representation to say, Dave, as we talked, as we went through the discovery process, this is what you told me you cared about. I can help you build a plan that accomplishes these objectives. Once the business owner sees what they're looking for and understands what their pain is, we can drive to getting a signature. We want to make sure that we get an engagement letter. Primary reasons are it really helps moralize that engagement, but then outlines what folks or what the business owner can expect. Your fees are different than their attorney's fees and different from their financial planner's fees or CPA's fees. So you'll charge a fee for implementation and creation of the plan. Each of the different advisors have their piece of the puzzle as well, and that's what that engagement letter will do. Now, we're at the exit planning creation stage. So the business owner has said, hey, we want to do this. The key for BEI advisors and the key for exit planning advisors as a whole, because you have full-time jobs already, and we don't want to make implementing exit planning the same as building a whole new department within your firm. It's important that you have a repeatable process so that as each of the members within the firm engage their clients in an exit planning process or an exit planning engagement, they have a way to move through the creation of the exit plan without having to recreate the wheel each time. We want to make sure that there's one source of truth that all of the advisors operate from, because we want to make sure that that business owner's goals and objectives are being met as we move forward. We want to have one-on-one professional coaching, and then really we'll make sure that there's plan design and technical support because there are so many different pieces in this exit planning process that we'll drive to make sure that there's support through. We use a 7-step exit planning process that goes from identifying the owner's exit objectives all the way into personal wealth and estate planning. So we go to the next slide. We talk about a repeatable process. We want to make sure that we're really getting into the business history and forecast and finding the data that's most important and relevant to the business. So we use a set of fact finders here at BEI. The advisors that work with us use a set of fact finders that no matter what business they go into, we're asking the same questions. Because what we believe is if we ask the right questions, all of the outcomes will be customized to each of the different businesses. So it's not a boilerplate, here's the exit plan that you should create. What it is here are all of the key pieces in the 5,000 plus exit plans that we've done in our 20-year history. Here are the key pieces of the business that we need to understand and drive through. Once we know all of that information, then we can start to build the right plan. We'll go to the next slide. So continuing in the repeatable process and really the one source of truth, what our advisors use is a software platform called Epic. And really it works well in that the software gathers the data that you've collected from the fact finders and then will eliminate the wrong answers. Our belief is we'd rather you start with a full sheet of paper and scratch off the wrong answers rather than try to sit in an office with a bunch of advisors and a blank whiteboard and come up with the right answer. So that's what our exit planning software will do. It helps you to manage the draft iterations, comprehensive. You can do a comprehensive plan or a component plan. It also looks at the value drivers. Now, the nice thing about what the Epic platform will do is, again, it's not an A plus B equals C. It's more of A plus B does not equal X, Y, and Z. And it might say, you know, we need to look at getting an updated company valuation. In that instance, the BEI software does not create or drive a valuation or look at the financials of the business for the advisor. The advisor would need to use a tool like Sageworks or other softwares out there that will help them really drive the integration of the financials into the exit plan. But what the software will do is, again, help to manage each of the recommendations. As you jump to the next slide, Colin, what we'll see is that this is our kind of recommendation set. So when we look at maximizing and protecting business value, here are the 25 different recommendations that the software has said. These may or may not make sense depending on your business. There's about 30 that have been completely eliminated, but these are the ones that are left. And what we're looking for is for the advisor who uses the tool to say, this one makes sense, this one doesn't. Use your firm's knowledge, use the other softwares that you have in hand to help make that determination. And then from there, we move into exit plan creation, or excuse me, exit plan implementation. So in the next slide, what we'll show is the implementation checklist, planning timeline and software, business owner roadmap, and implementation support. So as you think about the creation of an exit plan and how to keep all of the moving parts moving in the same direction, what we want to make sure is that you've got a timeline, that you have a project management software in place that says, Bob, the CPA, is supposed to do the tax assessment on terms of sale by this date and deliver it to me by this date. And that those are shareable and usable by all of the advisors on the team. I think with that, we kind of wrap up the implementation process. Before we close out the exit planning side of this, I do have a poll that we'd like to put up here quickly. And really just about your interest in integrating an exit planning service offering. If you'd like to have a live demo or talk with BEI about how to be the leader of an exit planning team or be a part of an exit planning team, just fill that out and we'll collaborate with Sageworks on making that happen. All right. Thank you for that, and I'll close my portion with, at some point, every owner leaves his or her business, voluntarily or otherwise. We like to say, you'll either leave by choice or leave by death. You're going to leave. But at that time, every owner wants to receive the maximum amount of money in order to accomplish their personal, financial, income, and estate planning goals. And that quote's from our founder, John Brown, from one of the books he's written on exit planning, Cash Out, Move On. All right, with that, Colin, Scott, thank you so much for your time. I guess we'll open it up for questions at this point.
Thank you, Jared, and everyone. This is Colin again from the Sageworks team, and I do want to field one question here in the last couple minutes. So as the folks are listening to this presentation today, one of the things I wanted to do is think about exit planning and valuation together, and where they really work well together. Because obviously, as you pointed out, exit planning can start years in advance. Valuation is something that can definitely come up during those years, a lot of times probably towards the very end, but sometimes actually beneficial to think about much earlier. So I was curious, Jared, from your perspective, and in your work, how have you seen valuation play a role?
And right, the business owner thinks, oh, my business is worth $15 million in this exit plan solution.
Well, thank you for the insights there. I definitely appreciate it, and I know it's something that I'm sure everyone on the webinars has encountered in one way or another. So I wanted to wrap up with just some housekeeping items really quickly. A couple questions came in around access to the slide week with the slide. So you're obviously for giving anyone has any questions at all, please don't hesitate to have my question. You can certainly text us through the website. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you.